Hello and welcome. I am Camille Saunders, and today I'm talking about the new moon and doing a collective tarot reading on today, October 21st. So let's get into it. So, this is a new moon in Libra, but we are shortly entering Scorpio season. So this new moon is on the tail end of Libra season. And again, I'm doing a collective tarot reading as part of the Everyday Tarot podcast, which is your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. Again, I'm your host, Camille Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and professional witch. And today I'm talking about this new moon in Libra. So, whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. All right. So, whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or no, just said that, each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. You can tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me on the Everyday Tarot podcast. So, this new moon and collective tarot reading is something I'm doing every new moon, so you can look forward to that. If you want an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast after I do my new moon collective reading, you can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. You can do that there. You can also support the podcast further and get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Rich Bitch level on the Patreon. And I will have the link for that in the show notes once this goes on. Let's see what else here. Just going to go ahead and make sure I'm streaming everywhere else. Almost there. Okay, all right. So that is posted on Facebook now as well. So let's see here. So yeah, if you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. And again, you can find the Everyday Tarot podcast anywhere that you can find your podcasts. I'm going to be kicking off my Tarot for Transformation monthly workshop starting in January 2026. So we'll be deep diving each card one per month with a 2 to 3 hour workshop and a workbook to go along with it. If you're interested, I'll have the link in the show notes again to find out more info. Also, if you're unable to join live for those, you will get the recording as long as you're signed up. You will be able to sign up for the whole year of workshops for a slightly discounted cost, or you can always just join whatever months work for you. If you're interested in a free 2025 5-card tarot spread that I created for my listeners of the podcast, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date info on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. And if you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist and coach, seeing clients virtually all over from my home office. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. So if you'd like to work with me, you can head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers again in the show notes or on my website, which is CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right. So today, like I said, I'm talking about the new moon. This is technically a new moon in Libra. We're at the tail end of Libra season, and I'm doing a collective tarot reading today. So I'll go over a bit of the description for this new moon and kind of what to expect. We'll talk about its relation to the tarot, and then I will do a collective tarot reading. I think on burnout, some of I found a spread that I like to do on that because I don't know how you're doing, but I'm feeling a bit burned out. And so I thought that that would be nice, especially for Libra season as we talk about balance, to talk about some things related to burnout and maybe get some insight into that. All right. So I am recording this on October 21st, 2025. That is when the new moon enters Libra this season right now. It's at 28 degrees. And 21 of Libra. It closes the eclipse portal and begins a lunar cycle focused on healing relational wounds and restoring harmony within ourselves and in our connections to others. So, this event asks us to explore new ways of relating and offers an opportunity to gain a new understanding of the nature of our relationship patterns that manifest in our lives. So, this Libra new moon is particularly significant for people born with natal placements and cardinal signs, which would be Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And this event is more likely to bring new people into their lives or fuel significant new beginnings in their existing connections. So those folks will have kind of like the most kickoff of opportunities to get new insights about their relationships and make important changes in how you show up in them. And I'm reading this info from moonomens.com about the new moon in Libra for 2025. So, Libra season, as it comes to an end, the sun and moon meet in the late degrees of the sign of the scales. Before Scorpio season begins, this new moon brings fresh energy into our social and romantic lives and invites us to discover new ways of connecting with others. So, new moons, of course, always mark new beginnings, right? Planting seeds, setting intentions for the future. But this new moon is particularly significant since it's the first new moon that's not in an eclipse since eclipse season started. So the Libra new moon officially closes the eclipse portal. Thank you very much. We will now move on to a new chapter while continuing to integrate the experiences we had during the eclipse or the many eclipses. So, in Libra in general, a new moon brings renewal and fresh starts into our relationships, inviting us to explore new ways of relating, connecting, and collaborating. So, the focus is on restoring reciprocity, cooperation, and harmony. Throughout the upcoming lunar month, we'll have opportunities to learn to honor both our needs and those of others without losing touch with ourselves in the process. Again, all about that balance. So, this lunation encourages us to cultivate harmony not by avoiding conflict, but by showing up honestly, listening carefully, and making an effort to find the real middle ground. So, this new moon is tightly opposing Chiron in retrograde motion in the late degree of Aries. So, this opposition is an opportunity to gain clearer awareness of how the past pain continues to impact the way we show up in relationships, the choices we make, and the people we attract and feel attracted to. So, if you don't know, Chiron was named after the mythological wounded healer and teacher. And in astrology, this celestial body is connected to feelings of rejection, vulnerability, and wounds that periodically open through our lifetime. And ultimately, Chiron teaches us that our wounds contain our medicine, that only by facing, feeling, and embracing our pain can we access the wisdom that comes from it. So, this new moon may bring the spotlight to old stories, maybe around abandonment, rejection, betrayal, showing us how these unhealed places still shape the way that we relate. So, around this time, we may recognize where we unconsciously recreate old dynamics as a way to try to heal what once hurt us. In Aries, Chiron highlights wounds that affect our ability to assert ourselves, be independent, follow our own path, express our anger, be decisive, and trust ourselves and our instincts. The invitation for us at this time is to meet our own pain with tenderness and care, right? Being soft and gentle with ourselves. We're softening our defenses and we're coming to a place of greater self acceptance and self compassion. The sun and new moon in Libra are also squaring both Jupiter in the late degrees of Cancer and the retrograde Pluto in the earlier degrees of Aquarius. And this will intensify the emotional charge of this new moon. It's going to expose power plays and other control dynamics that might be kind of like lying underneath the surface. It asks us to become aware of our unconscious needs, desires, and compulsions that drive us from behind the scenes and challenges us to transform the way we relate to our and other emotions in order to shift long-standing relationship patterns. So this Jupiter activation reminds us to reflect on whether our generosity may be based on ulterior motives and asks us to make sure we're giving from a well-resourced place, right? The square invites us to observe how we may try to earn love or validation through overgiving and encourages us to cultivate true, honest, reciprocal, and nourishing relationships. Let's see what else here. So with this new moon in Libra, we're going to be stepping into conscious relating as the upcoming lunar month. We're going to have the opportunity to address any imbalances in our lives and relationships and actually restore true harmony, peace, and balance. So it's a time to recognize again where giving and receiving might feel out of alignment. Again, Libra is all about balance. So figuring out how do we find balance, where are we, again, giving too much, or maybe we're taking on a lot and we're not giving as much. We have to take responsibility for our part in co-creating the dynamics that we are participating in. So the Libra new moon is an invitation to cultivate fairness, kindness, and mutual respect. Keeping in mind that it's not about suppressing our needs or avoiding conflict, but about creating space for more honest dialogue and authentic connection. So this event can open doors to profound relational healing, empowering us to release patterns of control, fear, or avoidance, and to step into more conscious ways of relating. All right, so thank you to Moon Omens for that information about this new moon. So as we think about the relation to tarot and kind of the spread that I would like to do today, right? I pulled a spread about burnout, which again, really burnout, right, shows us when we are out of balance, when we're giving too much, or when we perhaps previously have given too much and now we are feeling the consequences of those actions. I'm trying to find the right spread that I wanted. Let's see here. So this one will be a 5-card spread. This is from the Emerald Lotus website, Emerald Lotus Divination, and it's a tarot spread for preventing burnout. And again, I will link that in the show notes once this is posted, where this article is. So when we think about tarot cards in general for Libra season, we think about the Justice card, where there's often showing those scales of balance, the scales of justice. And right, Libra season is all about, which we're ending here, but is all about trying to find places where we have been imbalanced. So again, this will be a 5-card spread. So we're going to go through. The first one is, how do I currently feel about my work responsibilities? We're going to talk about what aspects of my work are draining me. How can I balance work with rest and relaxation? What boundaries should I set to prevent burnout? And how can I rejuvenate my energy? All right. So actually, maybe I'll share my screen here so you can see the spread that I'm talking about. Here we go. Okay, so again, this is the spread that I'm going to do right now. This is on emeraldlotusdivination.com. So not a spread I created, but I was thinking about burnout recently and thought that this would be a good one to do. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my cards. I'm going to grab my Herbcrafter's tarot deck. Because I've been really into using plant medicine lately. I think that can be a helpful thing with burnout, to kind of add support to our system. And there are lots of plants to do so. So I think that will be a fun way to engage with this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick shuffle here. I'm going to go back so that you all can see me when I pull the cards. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I think you can actually see both. So that's nice. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my 5 cards in the sort of arrangement that are in this image, which is like 1 at the bottom, 3 at the top, and then 1 on the kind of bottom right. Okay, here. So let's get into it. So the first card, so how do I currently feel about my work and responsibilities? I pulled the 6 of Earth. Let's see here. There we go. Which is pine. So again, this is going to have all sort of like plants or herbs to work with. And 6 of Earth would be like the 6 of Pentacles, which is the Earth sign in a tarot deck. Okay, so I don't think I've pulled that one before. Not super familiar. I mean, I know pines, but let's kind of see what that has to say. And this is Earth. So immediately I'm like, right, how do we currently feel about work responsibilities? If we think of pentacles or earth signs, right? Perhaps it's like feeling ungrounded, or feeling maybe like material loss or like dread around that. So let's get into it here. Yeah, the 6 of Earth is pine again. So ground yourself in community, share your resources, your generosity will circle back to you, and the soul remains evergreen. So it's depicted on the card, which again I will show here. A circle of ancient stones surrounds a warm fire. A rustic pine table shows small muslin bundles adorned with red string, pine sprigs, and cones, bundles made with friends at solstice. The sun has set and moonlight glows along the field. The shadow of a rich evergreen forest is seen beyond the meadows. It says, life is generative. Share with friends, support each other in times of plenty and times of lack. Celebrate what you have. Pine is an evergreen tree that keeps its needles all year. Actually, I have lots of pine trees on my property that I can see out my window here. They provide medicine, materials for baskets, and shelter for forest creatures. It's a living embodiment of everlasting life. As the pine is gracious with its resources, be generous with those in need. Honor the people and the land that have provided you with the foundation, security, and resources on which you now rely. Gather the community together and teach what you know. Recognize the bounty in your life. Look for ways to share your abundance with others. So if you want to craft with this card, you can walk in a pine forest with friends to release the old and make way for the new. You can learn to weave pine needle baskets to gather your bounty. You can drink tea from freshly gathered pine needles for renewal and regeneration. So we think about this in the context of, right, how do I currently feel about my work responsibilities? It sounds like, right, we feel kind of like we've been generous, right? We've been sharing with people, supporting each other in times of plenty and times of lack. I would say like the only thing there, right, is that if we think about pine as being evergreen, right, sometimes we can feel like, oh, I have to work all the time, right? I'm not ever allowed to drop my needles, shed my leaves, as an evergreen tree. And that can be really draining sometimes, right? So, right, we think of pine as it's gracious with its resources, like it gives a lot. And right, we can honor the people and land that have provided me, right, you, with foundation, security, and resources. So like gratitude, and gather the community together and teach what you already know, right? You don't need to create new things. You don't need to take that training. You don't need to like take on anything else. Just like operate from what you already know to be true. And like stay with that, right? We're trying to stay sustainable. We're not trying to like create a whole lot of new things. So, right. And maybe like that's also releasing things, shoulds that you think you should be doing or things that you were doing in the summer when you had more energy and light, and now you're like, it's fall and I'm not feeling it. So I would say that that's kind of what this card is asking of us, right? To um, kind of like go into our reserves, right? Our storage, our preservation, the things that we have cultivated in spring and summer, and to kind of use what we have, right? And again, like you don't need to like create a whole new thing. Like just we're going to operate from what we currently have right now. Okay. All right, next card. So the next prompt is what aspects of my work are draining me? And this is card number 2 in the spread, and I pulled another earth one. I pulled the 10 of earth, which is horsetail. Let me check to make sure y'all can see that. The 10 of earth, horsetail. Okay. And I did pull it in reverse. This deck doesn't lend super well to reversals. It doesn't have any specific reversal definitions, but I'll try to interpret how I think this, what this means. Okay, so 10 of earth, and what aspects of my work are draining me right now? So let me go to 10. Okay, so horsetail again, ancient magic, modern medicine. Find strength deep within. The wisdom of the elders takes root in the bones of youth. So again, looking at this card, it depicts a basket decorated with horsetail root rests on a bridge over a dense marsh. Alder trees lean to create a canopy above. The lush blanket of green here covers the muddy earth beneath, and the young spring shoots of horsetail are perfect for gathering. So, what does it mean? So it says, you are safe and secure. You are a well-established member of your community. You know your work supports and sustains others. Horsetail both gathers nutrients and removes toxins from the area. Understand your connection to the greater purpose of life. Pause and connect often with all you have been given. Horsetail is a relative of a 400 million year old plant. You come from ancestral giants. This all has taken place before. Sometimes, in order to be effective, you learn to grow small and multiply. Nourish an underground network, mindfully gathered from resources that have carried generations. Horsetail is favored among biodynamic gardeners as natural fertilizer, and the future can build on the strengths of the past. So if you want to craft with this card, it says you can visit a marsh, make a gratitude offering to the ancestral giants of the modern horsetail. You can harvest and dry horsetail in the spring to regain strength and vitality from its rich minerals, and you can invite in the wisdom of the elders to craft a talisman of horsetail root in the fall. So I would say, right, what aspects of my work are draining me? It sounds like this, right? If we think about this in the reversal, so upright, it would be about like safety, security, kind of like wisdom of elders. And if we're thinking about what's draining you, right, it takes a long time to have the sort of like, right, this plant is 400 million years old, or a relative of it. So like it has taken a long time to become the thing that it is, right? I think maybe the aspect of the work that's draining you right now is like the impatience of it, or expecting that you're going to be, right? Tens in tarot are about completion. So aces are like the beginning of the journey. Tens are like the culmination of the journey. So this card's all about the culmination, right? And sometimes we want to jump there. We're like, I'm so ready to be like established and to have this program or to have this thing that's been going on for a long time, to have my membership, to have the financial security that I want. And right, we have to understand that it takes time and resources to multiply, right? That by like this plant, right? It's sort of, I think like other sort of bulbing or under rhizomatic plants, it spreads underground. So you don't even see where everything is going, right? If we apply this to business, it's like, yeah, every time you talk to people about your business, every time someone sees your branding somewhere or they watch your live collective tarot readings, or they hear about you in a newsletter, like those are planting seeds again, like those are planting future clients for you, or future coworkers or business partners or colleagues or people that are going to support you and talk about you. um, and it builds this like future, right, on the strengths of the past, right? That's what it says about this plant. Right, it can be used as a fertilizer, because if you cut it all down, it can actually nourish other plants. So, right, perhaps for ourselves, sometimes we have to cut everything out of our business or out of our lives that is like no longer serving us, or that we no longer have the capacity for. And then that will allow us, right, to rest, to nourish, and then to grow new things in the future. But fall is not about growing new things, right? Fall in the Northern Hemisphere, which we are in right now, like, is all about lock it down, right? Again, drop your leaves when, so that you can save your energy in the roots of your tree. Like, think about the things that are draining you, cut them out, right? Like, cut out what you can. And also add support in, right? To have gratitude, to, right, perhaps like save things, ideas, um, connections, and things for the future. You don't have to act on them right now. That's the interpretation I'm getting here. Okay, so let's move on to card 3, which is how can I balance work with rest and relaxation? So I pulled Cedar in reverse. Cedar is the Chariot card of this deck. It's beautiful here. Let's see. I just have to think really hard about how to show this. There we go. So you have the cedar boughs and all the little, I think there must be pine cones around the edge there. It's beautiful. Okay, so if we think about how can I balance work with rest and relaxation, and we pulled the Chariot in reverse. So the Chariot is all about like blazing ahead. I'll see what kind of interpretation this has with Cedar, because Cedar is not as much of that like fire energy that I think of, but it says move forward with confidence, be disciplined to get flexible in your pursuits. Cedar is flexible, and embody the journey. So this depicts a mandala lies on the dark forest floor. And I'll show it again so you can look at it as I read. A cedar branch, stripped of its needles, forms the shape of the roots, while another fuller one makes the shape of the tree canopy. There we go. The two stems come together to create a trunk. Cones encircle the tree. The mandala is framed by lush boughs above and below. A starlit sky casts an aura around the tree. So life is a forward-moving gift, just like the Chariot, right? Embark on a deeper quest, learn from ancient wisdom, and forge a new path. Cedar is both a spiritual vessel used in sacred ceremony and a literal vessel when it is used for making canoes. Like strong, flexible cedar roots finding their way through the forest, be determined and opportunistic. Travel between the worlds of heaven and earth. Bring the knowledge of spirit and soul into the body, just as the cedar trunk contains the stories of the earth. Have faith in the experience. It is not the triumph, but the journey that leads to mastery. So if you want to craft with this Chariot card with cedar, you can encounter cedar in the wild and ask for guidance. You can carry a small leaf in your pocket for courage. You can practice discipline and flexibility, learning to harvest cedar honorably with ceremony and intention. And you can also journey into the spiritual realms with a cedar steam or a cedar like smoke cleansing. Would be options with that. So cedar also has, I mean, if you've ever been around cedar wood, so been in like sauna or built with cedar, it has a very particular sort of resinous smell, cedar does. And it's naturally rot resistant, which is why it makes very good canoes. The water does not deteriorate cedar in the same way that it does for most trees. So this is why people build raised beds, garden beds out of cedar, or buildings or different things, is because it is naturally rot resistant, and it holds up fairly well. And again, could be used even in bodies of water, right, for canoes. Cedar is also a giant tree. We have cedars. I don't know if we have any on my property, but in the area in which I live in the Pacific Northwest, and they love to be near rivers, water. They will suck up a lot of water and like survive that way, even during droughts and things like that. They can live off of their extensive roots. So if we think about, right, how can I balance work with rest and relaxation, right? Cedar is telling us like we can be determined and opportunistic, right? Like we have to be strong and flexible. So, right, so if we think about balance, again, we can have the schedule, right? We can take everything off the schedule that we don't need to have. And let's like leave room for flexibility so that when something does come up that you want to do or that's exciting or that right like feels worth it for your own again excitement or even relaxation, right? Like when the opportunity arises, like take it. So that is kind of what this card is saying, right? Like to look for those things that you can be disciplined and flexible in your pursuits. We can have the vision and we can be flexible in how we're going to get to the place that we want to go. So that is what the message I feel like that one is. So for card 4, it is what boundaries should I set to prevent burnout? And I got catnip, which is the Iha of air, and it was in reverse. And also the cedar was reversed and the horsetail. So I would say like we're having challenges with these things, right? Like we're talking about burnout, that's already challenging. So yeah, this is the Iha of air, which I like this card. Again, let me pull it up so I can show you. But it shows the plant of catnip, and then it also shows a cat in the catnip rubbing its head all over, which is usually how catnip works. So let's see here. And Iha means daughter. So Iha of air is like the page card in a traditional tarot deck. So this would be like the page of swords because it's air. So again, so this card is about returning to beginner's mind, first thought, best thought, and make mischief with a sleeping cat. That's what it says the themes are. And again, we're thinking about what boundaries should I set to prevent burnout. Okay. So what's depicted in this card? It says the sky is clear and blue on a bright spring day. Sage, lemon, balm, catnip, and California poppy fill a small garden. A cat slumbers barely noticeable in the catnip. You can kind of see its head and its feet there. The soft, pungent herb curves around the cat's head like a wild green mane. A girl plucks a sprig of catnip in her right hand and gleefully reaches toward the sleeping animal. Again, there's the card here, and this is the Herbcrafter's Tarot by Letitia Guthrie and the artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert and written by Letitia Guthrie. Okay, so what else here? So the Iha of air, which again would be like the page of swords, invites everything to be her teacher. She observes the cat and playfully follows her into the catnip. Like this herb that grows wild through the garden, she lets the world around her inform the direction that she takes. She approaches learning with the innocence of a child. She may revisit a well-known subject with the curiosity of a beginner. Just as catnip settles emotions with its refreshing medicine, she sets her feelings aside and communicates her observations and questions clearly. So if you want to craft with this card, the Iha of air, you can try something new. You can grow catnip in a window pot or a garden. You can perform a tea ritual with catnip before meditation to return to the beginner's mind. So yeah, catnip is also an herb that you can use in tea. And then you can strengthen the psychic bond between you and your familiars. Craft a catnip mouse. So you can play with your cats with catnip as well. Okay. And again, the prompt here was what boundaries should I set to prevent burnout? So as I think about this, right, and the fact that it was reversed, right, I would say that the things that we have to utilize to prevent burnout are allowing ourselves to try new things, right? We don't, right, the things that maybe were working for us in the past are not going to work anymore. and that's okay, right? We have to have some curiosity that also helps us with burnout because burnout feels like monotony, depression, things will never change a lot of the time, or that there's not like a lot of hope there. So, right, catnip is calling us into like try something new, like do the thing differently than you normally do, like change your habit or try to meditate outside or take your coffee outside or go on a walk in the morning instead of the evening, like whatever it is. Like this card is encouraging us to, right, try something differently. um, what else? And again, that the boundaries should I set to prevent burnout. So I would also say, um, we think about it settles emotions. It says she sets her feelings aside and communicates her observations and questions clearly. So, right, I think clear communication, right? That's what boundaries is all about. So, knowing what do you need, right? Like what kind of things aren't working for you, communicate those, and also like don't get caught up in how other people are going to react to that, right? Boundaries are about ourselves and what's working for us or not working for us, and then we decide how we are going to react or change our behavior ourselves because we want to change the interaction. We don't have the power to make other people do things, despite our best desires or our best attempts. Um, and so we have to think about, right, what do I actually have control over, right? Which is maybe like, yeah, meditation or trying something new or, right, like kind of working on your spiritual connection, right? These are all things that this card calls us to. Because also we can have like energetic boundaries. Sometimes for those of us who work with other people or are a lot of empathic qualities or can sometimes get very caught up in other people's emotions and other things, right? This like catnip can also be like a boundary setter with that. Of saying like, no, okay, that's their stuff. Like I'm being compassionate with them. And that doesn't mean I have to like take on all that emotion as my own or as like my problem to deal with. All right. So let's pull our final card here, which is the prompt 5. How can I rejuvenate my energy? And I pulled the 4 of Earth, which is willow, another flexible plant. And this would be like the 4 of Pentacles. So we have a lot of Earth here. We have Earth, 6 of Earth, 10 of Earth, we had the Chariot, we had the Page of Swords or the Eva of Air here, and then we're back to Earth, right? So it sounds like grounding is also what we need to do in order to what's the prompt for this one? I got rejuvenate our energy, right? Is grounding, working with plants. So this says, be a wise steward of your resources, be flexible yet sturdy, and strong roots help young sprouts grow. So this card depicts here, there we go. Weaving tools and an unfinished willow basket sit on a wooden table. A sturdy, ancient grandmother willow tree stands tall nearby. Her branches bend in the wind. A harvest of willow rods provides enough material for making many baskets. And you can see there, they're making a basket and a lot of materials. So conservation is key to sustainability. Take time to gather your resources respectfully and carefully and tend them well. Create space to preserve what you have gained. As a border plant, willow protects a natural area and creates sanctuary in the underbrush for small animals. Young trees can be shaped and curved to fit the location. The pliable and hardy stems are prized by basket makers. Making tools for today is medicine for tomorrow. Build a foundation for future harvests. A tea made from willow branches is used as a rooting hormone that helps other plants grow. Give thanks to those who have given your life roots. Be as generous in sharing your gifts as your teachers have been with you. So if you want to craft with this card, the 4 of Earth or willow, you can frame an altar with willow branches, Place objects representing what you want to protect inside. You can weave a willow bracelet around your wrist, wear it to be flexible and strong, and shower your teachers with gratitude. Send a gift of natural art using willow. So again, if we think about how can I rejuvenate my energy, right? Some of it is this like flexibility, right? We're being wise with our resources. Again, we're being smart about what we already have, what we've committed to. We're being flexible, right, with our energy or as things might change, but also we're sturdy. Like we're committing to certain things. It doesn't mean you have to do it the same all the time, but we are right trying to lay a good foundation for those young sprouts to grow, for things again to kind of like to grow in the future. Like conservation is key to sustainability. That's what this says, right? So we're going to gather our resources. We're not going to gather more than we can handle. We're going to tend to them, right? We're going to preserve them. You're going to make space for what you've already gained. So whatever you've already learned this year or this quarter or this month or this week, right? We're going to use that knowledge and we're going to operate from that place. Like don't leave that in the past, right? We have to think about how to utilize that information, how to utilize where we already know about, right, where we're at with burnout or what's contributing to it. And we have to operate from that place instead of avoiding it, perhaps, or saying, like, well, I wish I wasn't burned out. So I'm going to just wish really hard and not. Not do anything about it, right? If you can recognize it, like naming it is like the step one, right? Noticing step, then we name it. Okay, this is burnout. And then, okay, now what, right? What do I do next? So this is what this is saying. Like, okay, so I set boundaries, right? I have balance with my rest and relaxation. I cut out the aspects of work that are draining me, or maybe I outsource those. And then how can I actually rejuvenate my own energy, right? Is using the resources that you already have and the boundaries that you have set in order to kind of again plant seeds for tomorrow or the future right here. So we have a lot of strong mentors today and also flexible ones, right? We have willow, we have cedar, even horsetail, and then we have pine kind of lording over all, and catnip as our like undergrowth here, our ground cover to kind of help protect us on all levels as well. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this spread here that I used. And again, that was from emeraldlotusdivination.com, a spread about preventing burnout. All right. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. I guess again, to reference all the cards, we pulled 6 of Earth, which was pine, which would be like the 6 of Pentacles. We pulled the 10 of Earth, horsetail in reverse. So again, that would be like the 10 of Pentacles in reverse. I pulled the Chariot in reverse, which was cedar. I pulled the Iha of air, which would be like the Page of Swords, which was catnip. And then we pulled the 4 of Earth, willow upright, which would be the 4 of Pentacles. So again, a lot of earth, right? Calling us to ground right now in this energy. And again, I pulled cards from the Herbcrafters Tarot, artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert and written by Letitia Guthrie. And yeah, if you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, you can click on the link in the show notes to indicate your interest, and I'll send you more info. We'll be working together. I'll be doing a workshop every month of 2026, deep diving into each card, journaling to discover what happens. We want to transform our lives through the tarot, embody these certain tarot archetypes, learn about them, and then see like what they bring to our lives. So again, kind of similarly to what we did today with the plants, right? We'll be doing that, taking 1 card per month and really going into like, what would the energy of this card be calling us to? What what are we doing? What are we, and I'll be going through major arcana cards to begin. So that will be very fun. And links for the tarot decks I talk about will be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on this collective tarot reading for the new moon as an extension of the Everyday Tarot podcast. Just as a reminder, the general part of the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. These are just bonus episodes video, and you can email me e@camillesaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, more. Tell me, did you like this? Have you been watching the lives or watching the replays after to see the collective tarot readings? Yeah, and I will see you soon. I'll see you next new moon in about a month. All right. Goodbye.